Hello everybody, this is Jason with Modeling Pros, and tonight I would like to take the time to talk to you a little bit about airbrushes, specifically the Iwata Neo, which is the airbrush that I own. Can't really talk about any others because I don't own any others, nor have I ever used any others. This is the first and only one I have. It's made by Iwata, which is one of the major airbrush brands, as I have found. And I bought this at a local hobby store called Schaefer's near St. Louis. It can be purchased at Hobby Lobby as well. They are a national distributor for Iwata products. What I really want to talk about tonight, though, is not the function of the airbrush or how to use it, but actually how to clean it. One of the things that happens with airbrushes is that the paint or whatever it is that you're putting in there, in my case sometimes the clear coat or the paint, begin to collect in places you don't want them, harden, dry. I do clean it between usages, every time I change paint color, of course, and anytime that I'm done using it I clean it. But sometimes it needs to be taken apart more thoroughly and cleaned. Now, between cleanings, there are various products that can be used. This is one I picked up at a Hobby Lobby. It's an airbrush cleaner. Sorry, got the rubber band over the label there, but this is an airbrush cleaner that I picked up at Hobby Lobby. Works pretty well. I'm also going to be using tonight some X20A by Tamiya. It's acrylic thinner. And then I'm also going to be using just some standard paint thinner for the enamel paints that I use. I use both acrylic and enamel paints, and so in an attempt to try to get everything off that might be inside of there, I'm going to clean it with actually 3 different products. So oh, and by the way, this stuff I got online. The local hobby store has a place for it on their shelf, but they didn't actually have it. When it comes to thinners for enamel paints, Testors makes one. I'm sure probably all the major modeling companies make one. But what's in here, and obviously you can see this is just one I labeled myself, but what's in here is actually just a big ol', I mean it's contents from a big old bottle of thinner that I bought in the paint department at Walmart, and it works great. Maybe the enamel thinners that are manufactured by the modeling companies are better. I can't say because I don't use them. I used to use Testors thinner years ago, but I just can't bring myself to pay for a bottle that's this big or this big, 2/3 of what I'm going to pay for a gigantic bottle of thinner out of the paint department at Walmart, unless I try one of the others sometime and find that there's a significant difference. So back to the airbrush. When I used this airbrush last night, of course, if any of you read about it, I don't know if you can see this or not, but I dropped it last night and did a little bit of damage right here. However, this piece, I'm hoping, I don't see any reason why it should affect the operation. In fact, I did use it some afterward. Actually, all the usage that I did was afterward, and it seemed to work fine, but I was getting a problem that I get sometimes, and that you're always going to get if you use an airbrush and when it needs to be cleaned, and that was that the spray was erratic. So sometimes, besides just the normal cleaning that you do with each use, you're going to have to take it apart and clean it really well. So if you look here, we've got various pieces. We've got the color cup, and the Iwata Neo actually comes with 2 different color cups. It comes with one that's much smaller than this one. I've never even used it because it's really smaller than what I need. So anyway, we have that right there, okay? And I'm not going to show you the cleaning of every piece. I'm going to show you the cleaning of the needle, and then each of the other pieces can be cleaned with the same products, paper towel, you could use a brush, and these products that I just showed you. The main thing that I want to clean tonight is the needle, and I want you to see that. So the little nozzle, or I'm not sure if it's technically called the nozzle, but this tip piece here that I damaged last night like a dummy. that comes off there. And what I've done in the past is just taken, if you buy like a children's Motrin or children's Tylenol, pardon me, you know how they always come with a little dosage cup on top? Well, we have tons of those cups. So I like to just fill those cups with some paint, some airbrush cleaner, and then just toss those in there and let them soak. Anyway, in addition to that, there is this back here. Okay. There is the air nozzle, which this is where the hose would hook on to the airbrush, and I'm going to take that off and I'm going to set that aside there. Okay. Now I'm not going to take this airbrush completely down tonight as far as it can be. My main goal tonight is just to get the needle out and clean it. So you probably can't see it because it's so fine, but sticking out of the tip of this airbrush here is a needle, and I mean, we're talking a very sharp needle. So what we have is there's a little nozzle there on the end, and the Iwata Neo comes with this wrench here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this wrench on there, and I'm going to turn it counterclockwise here, and then I should just be able to unscrew this little nozzle. Okay, I mean, it's so small, I don't know if you can even see it there in the camera, but anyway, there it is. And I'm going to set that aside. Got to be careful not to lose that. I think those are like, that little tiny part is like 18 or 20 bucks at Hobby Lobby, so definitely don't want to lose or break that. Okay, so here what we have is the needle chuck. This is what tightens down to hold the needle in place. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn that counterclockwise to loosen that. And then what I want to do is I want to push the needle out forward. I don't want to pull the needle back through the airbrush, because if there's anything on the needle, then if you drag the needle back through the airbrush, you'll just be dragging all that nastiness and paint and whatnot. Okay, so I'm going to lay all that aside, and here's our needle. Now again, don't know how well you can see this, but as I look at this needle, I can see that there's some stuff dried on there. Now since the last time I took this needle out and really cleaned it, I have used Johnson's floor wax as a clear coat for the P51 that I worked, and so that's an acrylic product, and so I'm sure there's some of that on here. I've used probably some acrylic paint, some green, although I'm not seeing green on here. And then I've used some enamel paint, various colors, one of which was aluminum. And so that could be on here, and it wouldn't necessarily be the easiest thing in the world to see. So anyway, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to get a fresh paper towel, and I'm just going to rip it up into some different pieces for the different things that I'm going to clean this with. I'm going to have one for each cleaning product and one for drying. So the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this airbrush cleaner, and I am just going to put a little bit of this on here so this paper towel gets moist with this airbrush cleaner, and I'm just going to wipe this way. Now you can go back and forth on this needle, and that's fine, but when you get to the tip you better be careful, because that tip of that needle is well capable of poking a nice hole in your finger. And if any of you read my status on Modeling Pro's Facebook page last night, you know that I already, I don't know if you can see it or not, but right there, got myself with an X-Acto knife last night. I guess I shouldn't say X-Acto knife, it's not an X-Acto brand, but a modeling knife, let's say. So I'm going to try to give this a real good clean with this airbrush cleaner here, top to bottom. And I'm really looking at this needle, and I'm trying to stay where I know the camera is basically aimed. So if I go off camera here, forgive me. I think you guys can get the idea. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do here, close that up so I don't actually spill it. I'm going to take my enamel thinner. It doesn't, I know it just says thinner, but I told you this is the stuff I got at Walmart. I'm going to pour some of that on a paper towel here. Okay. Get that nice and wet. It's really soaking through badly. I'm going to have to really douse it to make sure that there's anything getting on there. Alright, and then I'm going to clean the needle with that right there. Give it a real good once over. Actually, more than a once over. A real good 20 over. Maybe rotate that needle tip in there. You can see what I'm doing there. Try to really clean that, and I can really feel that stuff on there. I'm going to dry that. And then I'm going to take my X20A, Tamiya X20A, which I have put some of that in a little bottle. By the way, they sell these bottles at Hobby Lobby. I love these things. They're very, very, very inexpensive. I think I got 2 of these for maybe $3, and I think like 3 of these for $3, or, you know, give or take some. I don't remember exactly. Not a lot of money is the point, and they're really handy. I mean, if you imagine trying to deal with this, you'd be pouring it all the time, probably spilling some, making a big mess. Whenever you're painting with the airbrush and you go to put your paint in the color cup here, it's almost with every paint, unless it's like a Model Masters Metalizer or something like that, which comes just unbelievably thin. Most paints you're going to want to thin first, and so being able to just take and pour some thinner into the color cup before you put your paint in from one of these dropper bottles is just way easier than really any other method you might be able to think of to get that thinner in there. Anyway, I'm going to put some of this X20A, which is an acrylic thinner, on here. Okay. And I'm going to go over it again, and I'm just making a, you know, I'm doing this because I'm using logic here. It's not like I've watched an instructional video on all the different chemicals you should use. A lot of the guys online, they use a product called Ultimate Airbrush Cleaner by a company called Ultimate Modeling Products, and they really tout that stuff heavily. They say it's just fantastic. And Ultimate Modeling Products just got a distributor in the United States. Before that, it was kind of hard to get their products here in the US. So now they're available. So I'll probably get some Ultimate Airbrush Cleaner soon and try that and see what I think of it. But the way I'm looking at this is I've got this airbrush cleaner, and I know it's going to clean some things. I use enamels, so I'm going to use try to clean this needle with a thinner that works on enamels. I use acrylics, so I'm going to use the thinner that works on acrylics. Point is, I'm just trying to attack it from all possible angles to get every last thing off of there that might be stuck on there, because that really contributes to the poor performance of the airbrush if you've got gunk, paint, whatever, dried on this needle here. So, looks pretty clean now. So what I'm going to do, and again, this could be cleaned even more. This can be taken down even more than what I have done. But what I'm going to do here is I am going to thread this little nozzle back in here. Okay. My fingers are kind of sticky. They're giving me trouble here. Real fine. And one of the guys that I watch online said the first time he ever did this with his Iwata Neo, he broke this nozzle, so it does not need much of a turn. So I'm just going to give it a little turn there to make sure it's nice and tight. Okay. And then I'm going to insert my needle into the chuck here, and I should receive 0 resistance, which I did not. Okay. And then I can, then I can tighten the chuck down real good. Now what you should see, and I don't know if you can see it or not, I'm going to try to get to where I can see what's on the camera. You probably can't see it, the tip of the needle, when I push this down and pull it back, should pull the needle back, and it is. The needle is going back and forth, and that's what allows the paint to come out. Anyway, if you have never painted with an airbrush, I strongly recommend that you get one, because I'm telling you, your models will be, the quality of your models will just increase exponentially with this one tool. It's probably the most valuable tool you're going to have in your modeling arsenal once you purchase one. And if you do have one, then you probably already know this information, but if not, I hope this will be helpful to you. And again, like I said before, when you learn a new technique, don't let it intimidate you. Just dig in. So go get yourself an airbrush if you don't own one, and start painting with an airbrush, because you will be so happy you did. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, again, this is Jason with Modeling Pros. Have a wonderful day.